are live on YouTube for a special Patreon Zoom call with the illest, most talented community on the internet, our Patreon squad. We're going to be talking about music release strategies for consistency without oversaturation, a little bit about touring, and whatever else they want to talk about. So you guys stay here. We're going to drop the intro one time. All right, so we had a question come in on the Patreon Zoom call. If you don't know what the Patreon Zoom call, it is our weekly Zoom video call where we talk about marketing, business, faith, encouragement, all those different things weekly on our Zoom call. What is our Zoom call? That is the community that we have on the internet that is a way for you to support this channel, to help continue encouraging people to live out God's dream through the podcast, through the visuals, through the music, all that kind of stuff. And it just keeps the lights on. It keeps everything going. It's super dope. I'm very thankful for these guys who are in this call with me. And we take questions and we chop it up about whatever it is that they want to talk about. And it can go a variety of different ways. And we talk about all kinds of different topics. But what we're going to kick it off with today is a question from the homie Professor Biz, who I actually just met at A3C in Atlanta. Super cool dude. Gave me some of his merchandise. I was like, man, that's super dope when you meet somebody in person that you've been in these Zoom calls with. And he asked, best music release consistency for fans, but not over saturation. So I wanted to bring some of you guys in from the Zoom call to see, as a fan, as a consumer, when you're discovering a new artist, when you're rocking out with somebody, what do you guys think is a good amount of music that isn't overwhelming? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? Is it more about the quality? Is it more about the quantity? What do you guys think? Who wants to chime in? Let's get Nate. Nate, I'm going to pin you real quick. Everybody just throw your hand up. And what's up, man?
Yeah, I want to say monthly.
Monthly.
Is probably the solid number. But I also want to say it doesn't have to be a formulated exactly every 7 days, every 14 days, every 30 days. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. You know what I mean? But if I were to pick a number, I'd probably say monthly, just because, especially for guys that are starting,
Okay.
like guys that are starting out making music. You want to not just put out stuff if it's junk just to put it out. You know what I mean? You don't want to put out a song because you need to in 7 days. If it's not a good enough song, then don't put it out yet. You know what I mean? It's better to, like you're saying, quantity versus quality. It's better to have that quality of a song. If it takes you a week longer than what your scheduled regimen is, it's better to put out that better song. You'll get more, not only more fans, but more loyal fans, because they like and can appreciate that quality you put into the work, no matter the time frame.
Okay, I like that. Anybody else want to chime in? I just got a great idea for this answer that I wish I would have named the video this, but it's too late. Who else wants to chime in? All right, here, let me pin you real quick. Boom. What's up, Canvas?
Yo, what's going on? So I'm very intrigued by what I've seen Joyner Lucas doing.
Okay.
Joyner Lucas is dope because he has an album that he's been, working on called ADHD, and he's been dropping the singles, like he's been kind of leaking them out one at a time, and each time he brings out a single, there is an absolutely incredible visual with the song.
Yes.
So like Joyner Lucas goes viral with his videos, like from I'm Not Racist to like Devil's Work.
Yeah.
Every time he drops a song, it pops because he has a crazy good video to go with it.
Yep.
And it seems like he just works that video for a while until the hype behind that video starts to die, and then he just comes out with another crazy record like I'm Sorry, or another one like Broken Stupid. Like he just makes a video after a video after a video, and he just pops on YouTube and Facebook and goes nuts. And so he's been leaking his album like one by one out that way. And I think that's something to, I'm not the expert on how to roll out music quite yet.
Yeah.
But that is something I'm very intrigued by, and I would love to get your insight on that, because he's been doing some very interesting stuff with video and singles.
Okay. Yeah, I think Joyner Lucas is a great example of someone who is going to be the new wave of artists, and that he's a visual person first, and he literally says he writes his songs with the music videos in mind as he's making the record. So that's a skill in and of itself to be able to create at that capacity. So I think that I think we have to factor that in. I also think we got to factor in that Joyner Lucas also has access. He's on a major label. He's been on Atlantic for a minute. He has access to some type of budget and some type of access to publicity and PR, meaning that like whenever Joyner Lucas drops, before he was super pop and he was still on World Star, he was still on the blogs, he was still on Complex. Like there was still Pigeons and Planes. Like there was still a level of visibility because he is on a major. So I think that's a quality extreme right there, right? I'll give you guys another extreme in the opposite direction in a second that is one of the few things. Yeah, I don't want to give it away. Does anybody else want to chime in on this idea for quality, quantity, how often? Let me bring you in, Daniel. And then I'll bring you in, Em. What you think, Daniel?
So to what Canvas was saying, right? Like the thing about Joe, he had like a crazy following within the city first. Like everybody in Ruslan, you said it before, like you should do shows and you should get people from your hometown to support you first.
Right.
And one of the things that he did have was he had like a cult following already in Massachusetts.
Right,
and
exactly.
So everybody was, everyone was following him from the beginning, which added to, the mass appeal that he had on everything else that came from that.
Yep.
So I just think that the groundwork is more important in order to build up to that next point in order for you to go further. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So.
And I think that's kind of what we're asking about is like on the way up, the groundwork up, right? As somebody is starting out, is it quantity? Is it quality? How does it work? So I think that's a great point though in terms of like he had consistency in that spot. Conscious, let me bring you in real quick. What do you think, bro?
I'm kind of sticking to answering that from the perspective of the fan. I think as long as the artist has a self-awareness of knowing what they're capable of and there's not a rush scenario, I want music as much as humanly possible.
Okay.
With that being said, I do think that there's two areas, content and the artist's journey, that get overlooked a lot from the artist's perspective.
Yep.
So like, I think what makes artists really appealing is ones that pay attention to making a big deal out of music, because we're in a place right now where music is it doesn't have a lot of shelf value. So, and I think the reason it doesn't have a lot of shelf value isn't necessarily because there's a lot of music going out there. I think it's more because the artist hasn't taken the time and due diligence to make a big deal out of the music and to find creative ways to do more than just release audio with the music.
Yes.
So as a fan, I want to see an artist who makes quality content around the song making process. But another thing that I think as a fan that I don't enjoy as much is when I'm listening to an artist who I know is amateur, they're not signed to a major or they're in the early stages of an indie career.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys don't put out music because they have a certain standard set and they're not, I think I would say maybe 80-90% of the artists that I listen to, I don't feel like when I listen to their music, they've arrived at their sound. So it doesn't make sense to me for them to be so cautious about releasing music. I think the caution comes a lot more of insecurity for them wanting to document their journey to their fans.
Right.
Something for me personally is like, I do a lot of experimental things. And so I'm not always going to know what stuff's going to hit and what doesn't.
Yep.
But I don't want to rob myself of like, almost like this assumption that I'm not going to have whack songs.
Yep.
That like paralyzes me from releasing a large amount of my material. So I think as a fan, I would like to hear more artists take chances with seeing what people think about their music and tapping into different audiences, because that also gives me a sense of where the artist is going creatively, which is also a big part of the story as well. So as long as they got self-awareness, I want the music as much as possible, some quality content to make a big deal out of the artist's journey and the process of song making would help as well.
That's good. Let me bring in Big Germ. Big Germ, not Big Perm, but Big Germ. What's up?
No, I just wanted to say, I think
bring your camera a little lower on your face. There we go.
Gotcha. For me, I know when we started making music, we were just doing it for fun. And we got into a place of where we were making music and then we just weren't putting it out. Or, you know, we would have all this stuff done. We'd just be, hey, this isn't good. This isn't good. And I think you said it. You said that you can't look for perfection when you're making music, that you have to just put that out and know that when your music grows, it's going to get better and better and better. So for us, we just started putting it out, knowing that it has to have a lot of work. A lot of things need to be done to it. But at the end of the day, you know, I don't have fans. So I think people that are just starting out, they need to just put some stuff out and kind of grow that fan base.
Test the waters, basically.
Yeah, test the waters and get out there. We started playing some shows. Some people invited us out in Temecula, and we just had fun with it. So it's kind of just where we're at.
Wait,
I'm speaking
where are
from
you based
me
at?
personally. I was born in San Bernardino.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved to Temecula.
Oh, you're in Temecula.
Yeah, yeah.
I
went to school with Antoine Bradford. That's why I asked you.
What a trip, bro! Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We gotta hang out, bro. All right, let me bring in Canvas. I'm in San Marcos, by the way. All right, what you think, Canvas?
Yo, so the three things I immediately thought of was, once, I remember as soon as Views came out, I loved Drake, but like I got real sick of Drake that year because he was on everything. Like he was on SNL, he was on everybody's songs, he was on the radio all the time. Like he was dropping so much music. I got like Drake fatigued. Like I just stopped listening to Drake for a while because I had just heard so much. And then I'm thinking on the flip side of that, like you see someone like J. Cole, or this might be a more dated example, but like someone like Eminem, who they space their music out quite a bit.
Yes.
You know, and the instant I hear that J. Cole dropped a new single, I stop whatever I'm doing and I go listen to it. Like the instant I hear Eminem drop something new, like I stop what I'm doing and I go check it out because I've been waiting. Like, and I really, really am huge fans of those artists. So I'll go and just check those songs. And a lot of times I'll play them over and over. Why are you smiling?
Because I just got a great point. I'm about to talk about something that the blessing report brought up in a live stream. So
I thought you were clowning me about Eminem.
No. I just think J. Cole and Eminem are also another opposite extreme. You know what I'm saying? So
right. And the last quick point I wanted to make was also I wanted to get your insight on. I heard Gary Vee talk about the idea that nobody remembers the losses.
Yeah.
That they only remember like the W's. So just put as much music out as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because it's just more at bats for you. And if you get one hit record, he basically said, like, kind of like Mark Cuban says, like, you only have to be right once.
Yep.
Like you get a good record and you're out of here. Like nobody, and I don't know if I agree with it or not. I don't know how I feel. I want to know how you feel, but he kind of feels like, okay, you got 20 whack songs that you put out.
Yeah.
But then you put out like a bop. And it's just crazy. And then you put out a solid album after that. Are people going to really go back and just remember those whack songs you put out on the come up?
So here's
Canvas will.
Yeah, Canvas will. All right, so here's my thoughts. Okay, so Gary Vee says that, but he also says, like, man, put out as much music as you can. Put out a song a day if you can, right? And he says that. And the thing that Gary Vee overlooks is that if you just put out music into the universe, the Russ model. Russ put out 90 million songs a week, and on the 90 millionth and one, it blew up, right? And you're removing the fact that Russ was an early adapter on SoundCloud. Very significant, very important. He's an early adapter on SoundCloud. So he's on SoundCloud as SoundCloud is emerging and exploding. He's early to it. So one, putting out music without a release strategy or without a consistency is not going to be helpful when there isn't a place there isn't a corner in the marketplace, right? That you're not anywhere. You're just putting stuff out, you know? And so maybe from a work out your talent and get better and share it with the world and document, and that way it could work. But this is the one thing I strongly disagree with Gary Vee on, is that you're like, I don't want a song a day from Drake. I don't want a song a day from Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want a song a week from Kendrick and Drake. I just don't. And so here's the thing about this song a week. Russ is one of the few people that's made it work, but let's be honest. How many not good songs has Russ put out? Way more not good songs than good songs. Do you know what I'm saying? And then Blessing Report brought up Toby. Now, I love Toby. I think Toby is the blueprint for the next wave. One thing we overlook with Toby. Two things we overlook with Toby. First of all, Toby, as dope as Toby Wigway is, he's an early adapter on Instagram, just like Russ was with SoundCloud. Toby was one of the first dudes rapping consistently on Instagram, putting captions under his words on Instagram. He was scaling it across multiple platforms, but he did the Get Twisted things, and that's where it really started to pop off, right? So one, you got he's an early adopter. Two, I just pulled up Toby's monthly listeners on Spotify. Okay, Toby's monthly listeners on Spotify are 228,000 monthly listeners. Okay, Toby seems way larger than 228,000 monthly listeners. Way larger, right? So for context, I fluctuate between 95,000 and 100,000 monthly listeners. I have 25,000 followers on Instagram. I got 12,000 YouTube followers. Toby has 300,000 or 400,000 followers on Instagram and I think over 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Those numbers don't make sense. Why don't they make sense? Because if we're honest, Toby doesn't make the most replayable quality music. He's a phenomenal rapper, but when it talks to, I mean, can you guys name me a Toby Wigway song? I can't name you a single song, and I'm a fan. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know who that is.
Toby Nwigwe. Okay, yeah, you sleep if you don't know who that is, Canvas. I'm very disappointed. You should have kept that to yourself. Toby Nwigwe is an artist out of Houston. He's super dope. Him and his wife started to Get Twisted series where she would sit and twist his dreads, and they dropped a song a week, a video a week, and then they put it on Instagram, they put it on Facebook, they put it on YouTube. They started just doing like secular instrumentals, if you will, right? And then they kept going, and now they're these like super dope dances, and he got a DJ, and there's somebody making beats and custom outfits, and it's nuts, and it's really, really, really amazing. And if you don't know who Toby Wigway is, he's a Christian, he's dope, he's selling out, shows, like he's touring at the level that Andy and Lecrae is touring at, right? With 218,000, let me make sure, because I don't want to, 228,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, right? Those numbers don't make sense. So Toby has been able to build a cult following. Toby has been able to build a cult following. Toby has been able to build a touring circuit. He's been able to build a living. But I think what hurt him is in the effort to release so much music that he hasn't actually made a bunch of hit records. He has maybe one or two videos that are like good songs, but for the most part, it's just consistency. And then this is where the Gary V model falls apart. And yeah, it's a good way to get on, man. If you could drop a song a week, if you could drop a song a month, you could be consistent. It's a great way to get on. But know that there is going to be some degree of suffering of the art, because just like I'm sitting here and we're saying name a Toby Wigway song, nobody can name one, and for the most part, I mean, hopefully you're the only person that doesn't know who he is, Canvas. Most people who are fans, Blessings Report said, I'm a fan and know not a single word. You know what I'm saying? So that's the flip side of that model. And here's my issue with it also is when we start saying drop a song a week, drop as much music as you can, consistency. Like, if there's no strategy for that, then it's probably not going to work, right? Now, if you say drop a song a week on Instagram TV because that's an emerging platform, be the Instagram TV rapper. Okay, now we're talking about something. You know what I'm saying? If you say, better yet, if Gary V said drop a song a week on TikTok, right? And there's rappers now on TikTok. There are TikTok rappers who do, like, it's like all dramatized, you know what I'm saying? And then like something's happening. It's like it starts out as a skit. I can't think of the guy's name, but I follow him. Super over the top. Starts out as a skit, and then somebody gets hurt, and then he hops in and he's like, brother, you shouldn't be killing your own kind. Like acapella. They're pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? And boom, he's blown up 300,000, 400,000 followers on TikTok. Now, if that was the approach, drop a song a week, drop multiple songs a week, put together skits for TikTok, then I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that works, right? That works. But just dropping a song randomly every week on platforms that are already saturated, on platforms where the algorithm is already not showing you love, it doesn't make sense. To put a song out a week on SoundCloud, now you're going to play yourself. To put a song a week out on Spotify, if you don't know anybody at Spotify, you're going to play yourself. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the rub, is even with a Russ, who's amazing, he has 100 songs and 10 of them are hits. You know what I'm saying? 10 of them are platinum, and the rest are like, there's a few gold ones. You know what I mean? And most of that happened after he signed with Columbia. You got Toby, who's 400,000 Instagram followers, who barely has twice as many monthly listeners as I do, and I'm at 20,000 monthly listeners. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me, 25,000 followers. So he has 10 times the amount of Instagram followers that I do, but only 2.5 monthly listeners on Spotify. That something doesn't feel right there. Why? Well, is his music replayable? Do we ride around and listening to Toby? I don't know anybody that rides around listening to Toby. I know people that go to his shows. I know people that will follow him on Instagram, but I don't know a lot of people riding around who know the lyrics to his records or who know the lyrics to the other 70 Russ records. You know what I'm saying? And so let me bring you back in, Canvas. I'm going to pin you real quick. So I would love to hear you guys. Oh, you're already pinned. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I know it's probably not what you guys were expecting, but let me know what you think, Canvas.
It sounds kind of like, dropping songs on SoundCloud a week is like drawing like beautiful art, and then you just hang it on your fridge, and you don't like let anybody see. You know what I mean? It's kind of like throwing it up in a corner. So would you say that like it's a basic supply and demand? Like the more you put out, the cheaper it gets. Like it cheapens your brand kind of by putting it out so much, because people are like, he's gonna drop one every week. I don't really need to go check it this week. But if like Eminem drops a song every year, like he drops an album once a year.
That's a good way to look at it.
Years, I'm like, I think he hasn't put out in a while. I'm gonna go check that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's a good way to look at it. I think oversupply can weaken demand, right? I think, but sometimes when you have supply, you can use that supply to finesse the demand, right? And maybe the music is really just a advertisement for the lifestyle. See, I think the thing about that Toby is dope is Toby's really selling you a lifestyle. Toby's selling you this cool, like, you should look him up on your phone right now if you aren't.
I just followed him.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, cool.
I just checked him out. Yeah.
Toby is selling you this cool, like, yo, I'm a Christian dude who's married and I'm woke, but I'm like not churchy, and like my wife looks good and I dress different and we're cool and we're like new agey. Like it's a lifestyle, right? Like it's a lifestyle.
Like Kev on stage?
Not at all, bro. No? Just you keep striking out with your comparisons here, bro.
I haven't looked at all.
I'm so
man.
disappointed.
I'll go check him out, man.
He's nothing like Kev on stage.
I'm a binge his stuff tonight.
He said, but Toby is rapping, not making songs, so I don't think it's quality and quantity stuff.
Gotcha.
I mean, dog, they look like songs on a Spotify blessing report. They're uploaded as songs. I mean, if they weren't uploaded as songs, then maybe you could say that. If they were exclusively to Instagram, you could say that. But they're on there as records. You know what I'm saying? He put them on Spotify. You know what I'm saying? So let me bring you in, Conscious. You feel what I'm saying? So, like, I think what he's doing is that he's selling a lifestyle. He's selling a brand. He's selling other stuff that is giving him an edge to then get people out to an experience on a live show with the band. And I think it's more about the experience and more about the lifestyle and less about, like, the 200 songs he put out. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think, Conscious?
I just want to say there's got to be a spectrum for this that's filled with this thing called happy medium.
Yes.
And I think the key is if you putting out any quantity of music is negatively impacted from the intent standpoint, meaning you're not able to put in a full effort of what you would normally do and up the ante in some type of progression and goal setting that you can hit on.
Yes.
As long as you can maintain that while you create and release music, then I think there's a big spectrum of quantity that we can work inside and outside of. And a lot of it has to do as well with what you're capable of doing as well. And each artist is capable of doing different amounts of it based off of their strengths and their weaknesses. I think about Lil Wayne, I think about Kanye, and these people that have extremely versatile music or large quantities. I mean, Wayne took over the game for like 5 years straight off albums and mixtapes, has a catalog of over 100 albums publicly released. And again, what I'm not saying that to say each song was quality.
Yes.
What I'm saying is maybe from that artist's perspective, if there was equal amount of intent and a progression of goal setting there, then it's absolutely appropriate. And more than not, the fans don't get to determine what's dope and what's not. And I don't like the assumption that pace has anything to do with an artist's ability to make a lot of back-to-back great songs. I've yet to find an artist that makes a high number of great music constantly. It's such a subjective thing. But again, the intent things, the intent thing, I think, is the gold nugget there.
You don't think Kendrick is pretty consistent with releasing really high quality art, and it's not. He when he comes, it's just a flood of stuff, and then he falls back, and then he comes and he floods. I'm not saying Kendrick's the model. Kendrick's on Interscope. Kendrick's on Megastar. But you don't think Kendrick's a good example of like fairly consistently making great music?
You're saying song to song, or
I'm saying song to song, project to project, stuff that's radio friendly, stuff that has replay value.
I think I got to give a political answer there. I think collectively across his fan base, I don't think everyone's saying yes to that.
Huh.
I think so, but he makes such a wide palette of music, and he's so early in his career to me, not in terms of time, but in terms of volume of music that we can critique.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, man.
That's fair. That's fair.
But he has set a bar for himself that I think people should model after in terms of saying, this is what a quality rollout looks like. This is what great intent looks like. And we need to be taking a lot of notes from that, because Kendrick is on the upper echelon compared to the average artist out there that releases music and content.
Yeah.
There's several artists that I think sit on a different echelon in terms of who we should model after, and not necessarily the general amount of, the general volume of artists and content that's coming out.
Yeah, and we're talking about people that are emerging, right? So like even comparing Kendrick or Lecrae, like Caleb said, Lecrae makes a lot of good music back to back, was reminded of listening to his albums. I think that's subjective. I think Lecrae makes a lot of relevant music, relevant with the times and the sound. I think Lecrae stuff doesn't have a ton of great replay value. If you go to a Lecrae record from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, except with the exception of like Anomaly, like I don't know how much Let the Trap Say Amen is gonna go 10 years from now. Like how much replay value is that gonna have 10 years from now? It's gonna sound like a dated record. It's gonna sound like the year. Where I feel like Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City is a timeless record. Outkast makes timeless records. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, let me bring you.
I think that has to do with the artist, though, bro.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Lecrae might not be capable of making back-to-back fire that's timeless. A lot of people aren't. I'm not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and that's very difficult to do. Let me bring you in, Daniel. I saw you had your hand up. What do you think, bro?
So I thought that I had lost my first thought, but then I got a new one. So like to that Lecrae comment, like, and to people that may be listening, it doesn't sound, and I can see what you're saying. It's not shade, because my boy just texted me like, what is he talking about? Like, it's not shade. What it is, and I think what you're trying to communicate is that he has to find a different element within the music that speaks to a further generation instead of where we were in the past. And so like Good Kid, Mad City is timeless because I feel like Kendrick connected to an element of music like from beforehand than he did like from where we're going, if that makes any sense. Like he kind of reached into the 90s and the early 2000s with his rap and then brought it into the later 2000s. And so that makes it timeless. Right. Versus like somebody who's just doing like the hippity hop Migos flow right now. Right. And it just sounds like it's trendy right now. Yeah. And so I think Conscious made a really good point with what he was saying. Like we have to find a different way of moving the music forward and what we see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So that's good. Yeah, and I think I'll quote Ace Harris. He said sometimes music for the ages isn't. Sometimes when you make music for the time, it isn't music for the ages. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes when you make music for the times, it isn't music for the ages. And so I think that's the tough part. So from an artist like Lecrae, like I want a 444. You know what I'm saying? Like I want an album full of game. I want an album full of like knowledge, wisdom. Like I don't know. That's what I want. And I think that's why Jay-Z has always been able to do both. Like he can make classic, timeless music. However, he can also make stuff that's introspective and deep, and he has stuff that works on radio, but he's never chasing a radio, or he hasn't been chasing a radio hit, you know, on any of the new stuff. And so I think there's a balance there, you know. Let me bring you in, Jay. What you think, bro?
Yeah, just to throw something in the conversation. I know we were talking about artists like Eminem and J. Cole. One thing I think we haven't spoken of, because those artists have established themselves, like, to afford them to take breaks in between.
Yes.
Right. So I remember when Cole came out, put out the warm up, Friday Night Lights,
Yes.
put out the Truly Yours. Like, it was a big volume of music. He got himself to a certain level of elitism.
Yes.
Now it's like, okay, I'm gonna fall back 2 years, come back, and
Yes.
it's a parade.
Yep.
You know.
And so J. Cole used the format of mixtapes, right? In the same way that Russ used the format of weekly songs on SoundCloud, in the same way that Toby used the Blessings Report would call them weekly freestyles, even though I think most of them are songs. I think he's used the different format of the times, right? But here's what I think it all comes down to. I think what it really is trying to get back to is, how do you get yourself to a place of touring, right? Because what J. Cole did is he put out those mixtapes, and then what did he do? He did the $1 in a Dream tour, where he went and toured all those big venues for $1 a ticket and sold them all out, which created the fanatic, you know what I'm saying? Like, got people out to the shows that probably wouldn't have been to the shows, that were kind of like on. Because the thing about, man, it's tough to convert people from free music. So if you're just giving people free mixtape, and then you try to charge them for an album, that's really hard. So he was smart in that he created an easy entry point to do the $1 in a Dream tour. Okay, I'm on I like some of his. All right, I'll pay $1, and then you go, and then you're won over. That's the best way to win somebody over to become a super fan, is at a live show experience. So I think the goal of all this is to do consistent music content, whatever you want to call it, to get people ultimately to come to a show, to come to a tour. And so how do we get to touring? So what I'm doing, and this is just what I'm doing, is like, I'm pivoting away from just being a rapper, obviously, right? And I'm going into podcasting and doing content from a podcasting, interviews, conversations. And then I'm also using TikTok to create, not music, but to create like very practical motivational stuff from pre-gym proverbs. And I've been finding a ton of breakthrough on TikTok, so that when I end up packaging something, a tour, it's not just a rap concert, right? I can get somebody out to hear a live podcast recording. I can get somebody out to hear some very practical teaching that's going to give them some tools to go on and kill it and crush it at whatever they're doing. And then they're also going to get some music. And so I'm intentionally piecing all of this together for my own personal brand, because I don't want to do the typical, and I also don't want to do a bunch of shows and scrape by and make a couple $100 a month. Make a couple $100 a night and play for crowds of 50 and I'm in this. Anything I do, I want to bring my family for. I need to make more per show, and so I have to give more to get more. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I don't know if you guys have been seeing my TikTok stuff. Like, I took the pre-gym proverb stuff I was doing, and then I started dropping it on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole nother audience there. And it's ultimately about, how can you get attention to send people to wherever you want to send them to. You know what I'm saying? Which I need to talk about J. Cole college format. He would be a huge artist and why opening up for he would book huge artists and NY and open for them, making his fans. Yeah, I mean, that's common too, like opening up for the artists, all that kind of stuff. I think again, the tricky part with J. Cole, the tricky part with whoever, is that everything is moving and changing so fast. So J. Cole was last decade. You know what I'm saying? Like, J. Cole got signed to Roc Nation in 2009. Like 2009, that's 10 years ago. Different times, you know what I mean? Different times. And so for me, what are the tools at our disposal right now? And so like Conscience is on Twitch. You know what I'm saying? That is, he's an early adapter to a platform that a lot of people aren't on, that I feel the pressure to need to be on, and to figure out a way to do some type of live stream at least once a week on Twitch, right? Different audience, different tribe of people. And then once you build those things up, the goal then is to transition and head over into touring, but touring in a way that creates an experience. One, gets people out, and then creates an experience. And so yeah, man, I think it just depends what type of artist you are. Proud Lyric said, see what works for your fans. Holding music for months and releasing it all together might not work for you. It does for NF, but Toby keeps his fans engaged. Didn't even know he was on TikTok. Yeah. So again, like we're talking about like NF, like NF is on, like NF has been around for 5 years on Capitol, major label. You know what I mean? Like these are rough examples. You know what I'm saying? Like the way NF got on is not the way he's continuing to build his brand and scale his brand. So I think we're talking about how do you get yourself to a place of touring. It's not going to be in just dropping one amazing body of work with 15 classic records. Like, no new artists are breaking through that way unless they're Kendrick's little brother. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, unless they're like Jay-Z's godson. Like, no one's just going to get on with a classic album like that. You know what I'm saying? Let me bring you in, Conscious. That's just not the format that we're in. That's not the format that we're in.
Just got a quick 30 seconds for you.
No, go for it.
I really like to make some summarizing things out of these because we drop like millions of nuggets and I think we should package them in a bag for some people. But like, so two things that I just want to kind of summarize real quick that I think are important to think through. One is that there's a lot of ways that an artist can compromise the quality of their music. And the stuff we're kind of focusing on right now is like volume. You could just be making too much and the quality of the content gets compromised, or the marketing and lack of additional content with your packaging as well as the story. And then also there's another tier where if you've gotten past the fact that you've gotten to the point where, okay, you're an artist and you're making a lot of quality content and putting good intent into it. There's also an issue where there's a lot of artists out there who make great music who will be overlooked. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that happens is because the artist has not done their due diligence to scale that content in front of a large audience, and or done a lot of extra steps in the creative process of marketing and content to prolong the life of that stuff. There's going to be music out there who there doesn't need to be a lot of marketing behind. I mean, let's look at a song like Tupac's Changes. Mm-hmm. You play that song, you know, it didn't have insane marketing, didn't have all this technology and stuff that we have. That record has found a way to etch itself in time and be timeless.
Yep.
But not everybody is Tupac's Changes song.
Yes.
So as somebody who's trying to synthesize this into something useful, make a big deal of your content. Tell as many people about it as humanly possible. Continue to have intent and make it better, and don't do things that compromise those goals.
Yeah. And figure out how much quality content can you put out? How can you scale that, right? So something I'm doing right now is I'm about to hop in album mode with Ray Rock, and we're working on intentionally some big records, quality records. We're taking our time on those. But in the meantime, I'm doing a lot of features. I'm hopping on a lot of records. So I got a record coming out next Friday with Social Beings that I'm releasing as a single. It's a joint single, but it was really just a record they had that they let me hop on. You know what I'm saying? And then I got another record coming with Berg on the beat, and what is his name? Jamil. The month after that, right? So what I'm doing is I am letting other people drive the quality of the record while I'm hopping on and adding myself and my brand to scale where I'm at, right? So I'm not, these aren't like Ruslan records. These are just, but they're gonna appear like Ruslan records. And all I care about is that I have great records on my Spotify, because every time that's another shot to bat, right? I just want to have great records on my Spotify that reflect who I am. Oh, Jamil's in the live stream. Shout out to you, Jamil. So you guys see what I'm saying? Like instead of me trying to just swing for the fences, well, I got 29 other things going on. Let me scale myself, and there's people that want to work with me. Let me do a record with some guys from the UK. Let me do a record with some guys from Patreon. Let me do some different things. So let me bring in Canvas real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Cause I don't want to beat a dead horse. But what's up, bro?
Yeah, man. So two quick things. Number one, first of all, I love Mowgli the Iceberg. He's one of my favorite artists. I love his intelligence and just his opinions on stuff.
Yes.
I heard him. My ears perked up when he was on Trackstars, because he talked about that he's not really trying to be a touring artist. He's trying to really just be a studio artist, and that kind of perked my ears up, because I never really heard anyone say that. So number one, do you think that's realistic? Number two, what advice do you have for people that are naturally introverted, who may not be as social and may not be as good at being the brand guy and being bigger than just a rapper, you know, making podcasts, doing all that stuff? How do they not just make music and expand into those other things without seeming like they're not being themselves and being ingenuine, because
Man,
I feel like that's a struggle.
That is tough. What was the first part of the question? You said Mowgli said you don't have to be a
So
touring artist.
Mowgli said he's not really trying to be a touring artist. He's trying to be more of a studio artist and just make music and just live off that. Do you think that's realistic?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I know an artist named Roland who I did a record with on Indie Jones 1, right? Super dope artist. He's not a Christian dude. He's from the Northeast. He came out to LA. And Roland doesn't tour at all, but he lives off of Spotify checks. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure. Let me check how many monthly listeners he got. But he's doing really well. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's not doing really well. He's surviving. Okay, so he has 118,000 monthly listeners. You know, so he can live off of his Spotify, Apple Music checks. You know what I mean? And sell merch. Yeah, so I think that's totally realistic. I mean, is that how you traditionally build a career? No. You know what I'm saying? But I think you do have to go out at some point to strengthen that connection with your people. You do have to go out and build some type of touring live experience, in my opinion. But it's not like absolutely necessary. There's multiple ways to do it. You know what I'm saying? And so the second part of your question was for somebody that's introverted.
Somebody that's naturally introverted and they might have, so you are expanding into not just music. You're doing TikTok videos, podcasts, all that stuff.
Yes.
There are people who are good at rapping, but they may not be as good at making interesting content on other platforms, making videos, connecting with people outside of just making music. So how do they get into that without feeling ingenuine?
I think you could either learn or you can pay someone to do it for you. Right? So you could either learn or you could pay somebody to do it for you. So like in my opinion, I don't think it's an option anymore. I think when you see Andy Mineo and Lecrae with YouTube pages and podcasts, like, and Andy's on TikTok, like I think that's a very and those are, I mean, Andy's arguably,
there's no way around it. You got to be multi-branded.
In my opinion, Andy is arguably one of the best rappers, if not the best rapper in CHH. Probably makes some of the best music in CHH.
Agreed.
Right? And he is doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so there's going to be some guys that are going to be the exception to the rule. Again, like a guy like NF. You know what I'm saying? Like he could keep the mystique. He doesn't have to overexpose himself. He doesn't do interviews. But again, that's
very reclusive.
That's the exception to the rule. And then you're talking about major label funding. I don't care what anybody says. He's still on Capitol, right? You're talking about major power player management, which is he has the same manager as 21 Pilots. 21 Pilots is huge. So you got
there's a lot of other factors.
There's so many other variables. So like, can somebody? Sure, but that's going to be the exception and not the rule. The rule is going to be you got to be on these different platforms. You got to and you got to use them as natively as possible. You know what I'm saying? You got to use them as natively as possible, and that's hard, man. That's hard. So let me bring you in, Daniel, for the last word, and then we're gonna get out of here. I appreciate all you guys. What you thinking, Daniel?
Oh, I was tapping my head, bro. I was trying.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Daniel. Jay Sannon. I brought in Jay Sannon. My bad. You gotta unmute yourself, champ. There you go.
Yeah. So, I know you touched on it a little bit earlier. So, would you say that the live show is like the best way to convert a fan, like fan conversion?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt, bro. Without a doubt. And it's just a quick way to hurt your fan conversions too. You know what I'm saying? I did a show last week at A3C, and I didn't pick the right records. The environment wasn't the right environment. I went on after like 3 dudes jumping around and killing it. You know what I'm saying? And then I went on trying to do like boom bap in Atlanta, and it just was like, bro, this is awful. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, yeah, it was rough, you know? And so for me, yeah, you know what I'm saying? And then last night I did a show in front of a relatively cold audience. Like it was about 200, 250 people there. It was a show at Reconcile and 1K Few. And I'd say the majority of people didn't know who I was, but I was definitely able to win them over really fast. Pick the followers on Instagram, sold merch. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole 9. So yeah. Yes, the live show is still going to be the best way to get people won over. If you're good live. Now, if you're trash live, You know what I'm saying? But if you could be good live and then you could pivot that into some type of connection outside of music, hey, hit me up on my super phone. I want to chat with you guys. It's all about connection, man. It's all about connection. At the end of the day, how can you connect with people? You know, so if you're connecting with people, that's what it's all about. And that could be a podcast, that could be a TikTok video, that could be a blog, that could be I sent out I don't know how many of you guys got it, but me and my wife put together like a Christmas card devotional that I just wrote. And it was like kind of like, you know, encouraging people about the new year and people. And I can't write for anything, but I can get ideas out. And then my wife edited it. And then we put together like this postcard, like a family postcard. And we sent it to most of the Patreons, I think all the Patreons. And I got a lot of feedback on that. Like, yo, this really spoke to me. Thank you so much. This really edified me. You know what I mean? So that could be so it's all about the connection. Like, it's all about the connection with people and how to scale that. Live shows, you just get the most amount of connection in front of the biggest audience. You know, it just is what it is. The flip side is that if you're opening for somebody or there's a built-in crowd, they're not necessarily there to see you. So the attention span is shorter. You know what I'm saying?
Churches.
Yeah. Or whoever, like if you're on you're the new guy signed to Reach on an Unashamed tour and you're going first. The room is going to be half empty. You know what I'm saying? The lights might be on, like, or
Right.
Winter Jam or whatever, right? Like, and it's just tough. You know what I'm saying? It's just tough. And so that's not a knock against anybody. You know what I'm saying? But it could just be tough. So, word up, man.
Do you have any?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, like, do you have any like kind of like quick like tips as far as like a live show? Like, seeing like you've been doing it like for like
so
last decade. Like,
I have an intro with that highlights a few things. One, it gets crowd participation. So one, I'm getting them to do something. Two, it has familiarity in the instrumentals that I'm using. So I don't do an original song as an opener. I do something that people are semi-familiar with, that at the least feels nostalgic, that showcases my rapping. You know what I'm saying? Really well, because that's what I'm known for. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not like 1K Few came out last night and opened with Hammer Time. So instantly, everybody knows Hammer Time. He opens with Hammer Time. It's a big record. I don't have a record like that. I mean, I guess I do for I Got the Juice, but I Got the Juice even isn't Hammer Time. You know what I'm saying? So I have an intro where I open up, I get people in, and it highlights my rapping. It gets crowd participation, and then I would say, I'm trying to get them engaged for the first record or so, and then I'm trying to get them to say the hook with me. So I'm going in. Why do I say so much? I keep hammering this down. A phrase that pays, a memorable melody. A phrase that pays, a memorable melody. I said it over and over again because if you got a dope intro, right, and you got them in with your intro, and then you got another record, a 3-minute record, do you have the ability to give them, teach them a hook in 30 seconds, and then have them say it back to you, and then drop your second record? You know what I'm saying? So that's how I'm looking at it. If you got 5 minutes, you have to have a record like that. You know what I'm saying? And I have a few. Like, I have a few records like that. I got a record called New Beginnings that I did last night. I got a record. Obviously, I got The Juice. I got Cold Flow. I got several records that I could teach them the hook, and everybody's going to know the hook, even if they've never heard the record before, and they're going to be able to say the hook back to me. And another thing I do is I do give people positive if they show me energy, I give them, a piece of merch or whatever. So that's a way for me to promote that I have merch on sale. So I'll give out a shirt at the beginning of the set, and I'll give out a shirt and a CD. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, whoever shows the most amount of energy. I don't use the word free because you don't want to devalue yourself. Because if they got it for free, then why am I going to go buy something you just gave to this person for free? So I'm going to give you guys a gift to anybody who shows the most amount of energy by the end of this set. You know what I'm saying? And so instantly people are like, oh, I want that. You know what I'm saying? I want that piece of merch. That's a dope piece of merch. And I show them the piece of merch. You know what I'm saying? And then I go into my introduction. You know what I'm saying? While the music is playing. So you just have to see my show, man. It's hard to explain all that. But I would say those are some elements, like getting people up, moving, fan interaction, highlighting your strengths. You know what I mean? So again, if I'm a wavy auto-tune rapper, make sure you have auto-tune live, right? I see people fail this at the highest level to the point where I don't want to be rude, but I be wanting to reach out to some people. What up, Gospel-y? And be like, yo, I got this auto-tune box I could send you. Like, I got an auto-tune and a reverb box I got for John Keith when we was touring. I could send you this. But I see people at the most elite level who do this wavy music that are jumping around out of key, sounding horrible, You know what I'm saying? Because when you could have just plugged in a microphone into an auto-tune box, and if you're going to open with an auto-tune song, have the freaking auto-tune on your voice if you're an auto-tune artist. You know what I'm saying? Just like common sense stuff. So if I'm a lyricist, like, I'm going to highlight my lyricism. If I'm doing auto-tune, I'm going to highlight my auto-tune vibes. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand the disconnect there. Like, so I think it's like playing to your strengths. You know what I mean? And it's all about your strengths. So I'm not doing melodic stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing like, you know, that's just not my vibe. I'm not doing those records for my album. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah. Totally. Thanks.
Word up, man. Well, yo, appreciate all you guys hopping in. Those of you guys that watch live, man, consider hopping over to the Patreon community. You keep this channel going. All that kind of stuff. You know, YouTube be out here demonetizing videos all the time. So do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up, like it, and hop on the daggone Patreon. Don't